This note is about Saichi, a Myokonin, and a devoted follower of Amida Buddha in the Shin Buddhist tradition. I have been familiar with Saichi's poems and Daisetsu Suzuki's writings about him for almost 30 years. In fact, Daisetsu spoke and wrote highly of Saichi toward the end of his life. Daisetsu even compared Saichi to some of the world's most renowned philosophers, despite Saichi having lived a simple life over a century ago in a remote corner of Japan as an uneducated wooden sandal carver with profound spiritual insights. Actually, this reminds me of Kabir in India, who also left behind many beautiful spiritual poems, but lived as a humble weaver centuries ago. When we read Saichi's poems, we see that he perceives the depth of discernment as the end of life, or end of ego. So not corresponding to the physical death, This indicates that he has realized the limits of discernment, which is to say, the act of separating things, like a dualism. The wisdom of non-discrimination, or non-duality, understands that life and death are originally a set and are not separate. In other words, in the state of facts as they are, there is no place for emotions or intellect. Facts exist as they are, or just as they are. Yet emotions often contaminate them. Therefore, as human beings, we must not view things according to our convenience or ego, or our calculations and hopes. Facts are facts. The foundation of human beings is nature, things as they are, naturally so, which for Saichi is synonymous with Amida Buddha. However, by the way, I say laws of nature, it's pointing the same thing. However, humans resist nature. Thus, they do not simply follow nature. They do not accept things as they are. For this reason, it is difficult to fundamentally accept facts. That is to say, nature, naturally so, means accepting death or unavoidable facts as they are. Discernment can be useful in life, but it is useless when facing death. Therefore, one must live on the basis of non-discrimination and accept nature as it is. Living purely by discernment is impossible, but that's what we may do in our mind. We often create the barriers of discernment. Originally, life and death are set inseparable, and this is the foundation, which is truth, nature, Amida Buddha, the original life. Using the mind that has created the boundaries or discernment, we must acquire the wisdom of non-discrimination, or the discrimination of non-discrimination, which means understanding the essence of discernment so that discernment does not become an obstacle, i.e., delusion. Saichi says, after life ends, the funeral is over, the mind is settled in the Pure Land, and I recite Amida Buddha, Namu Amida Butsu. This means cutting through the boundaries, seeing through the wisdom of discernment, and following the facts. This is Namu Amida Buddha, and this is being in this transient world. Incidentally, Dogen expresses this as simply abandon body and mind, forget them, and throw them into the house of Buddha. Let the Buddha's side act and follow along with it. This is from Shobogenzo. The longer version is this. This life and death is precisely the life of Buddha, the original life. If you try to abandon it, you lose the life of Buddha. If you cling to it and remain in life and death, you also lose life of Buddha. Without avoiding or longing for life and death, only then do you dwell in the mind of Buddha. Just do not measure it with the mind. Do not speak of it with words. Simply abandon body and mind, forget them, and throw them into the house of Buddha. Let the Buddha's side act and follow along with it. At that time, without effort or calculation, you transcend life and death and become a Buddha. Seeing this, it appears that both Saichi, which is related to Namu Amida Buddha and Jodo Shinshu, and Dogen, he talks about the Shikantaza, just sit, meditate in Zen, have experienced the same truth. Saichi writes in countless poems that he has already died, which means the end of discernment, before his actual death. That removing the scales from his eyes is the end of life. That he is with Namu Amida Buddha every moment. That there is no waiting for the end of life. That now is the end of life. That the end of life is a source of joy, and that he is entering the world of great nature, or Pure Land. Paradoxically, he also says that end of life is an end that does not die. Dying becomes not dying. I'm made to recite Namu Amida Buddha. So this suggests that as a human, the wisdom of discernment does not disappear. So Saichi believes that now is always the end of life, that it is a joy, and that each time the scales fall from his eyes, and even after completing the end of life, he repeatedly recites Namu Amida Buddha, which may have been a confirmation of the underlying mind. Confirmation of the undying mind. That Saichi says, thank you for leaving behind delusions. So he even feels thankful to have delusions, to open his eyes, saying Namu Amida Buddha, and out of delusion, he finds Pure Land. So he appreciates. And then he may go back and forth into delusion and popping out of it. But he says his discernment was the term that ChatGPT used. This thinking mind, ending of the thinking mind, is the opening up his eyes and to find him playing in the Pure Land, Nirvana. So, again, Dogen is from Zen, and he's more well known, but Saichi, a poor wooden carver, just lived quietly in the remote part of Japan have so much in common that we may appreciate the insight that he shared in that little notebook he left with thousands of poems which he didn't want to share with anyone before his death until Daisetsu found them. Thank you for listening. By the way, I'll put the URL so that you can read most of the stuff I mentioned for this note. Thank you. Have a good day.